Hey guys, how's it going? It's Shinobi here, and we're back with another Diablo 3 video. Last week I showed you how to build a barbarian, a whirlwind barbarian to be more specific, for under 1.1 million gold, and you can easily clear Act 1 and Act 2. I'll put an annotation on the screen if that's something you'd like to look into. And this time, because people really liked the video, I'm going to do it again. In this one, we're talking about Demon Hunter. Now I'm going to show you the stats that you need to search for, and that's what I'm doing in this part of the clip right here. I'm searching for things specifically. I don't want to spend too much gold. I want to really just kind of do a very small amount of gold for spending here. Now, why are we spending so little? Now, a lot of players, they say to me, hey, Shinobi, like, I don't have hundreds of millions of gold. I can't do Inferno. Like, can you please tell me what to do? Well, this video is for you guys, because when I was leveling from 0 to 60 on my very first character, when the game was brand new, I collected off the ground 1.2 million gold, which is pocket change. It's nothing. It's gold that I collected off the ground. So I set a limit for myself of no more than 1.2 million gold, so that way anybody can look at this guide and go, hey, I can afford that. If you're watching this video right now, that probably means that you can afford these items that I'm buying right here, because look, they're not that expensive. I'm just searching for stats correctly. I mean, you can go back and you can watch how I search for stats, but in the next part coming up, I'm going to explain exactly what I searched for in each piece of gear. I'm also going to give away the gear in a giveaway. I also did the barbarian giveaway thing too. The winner for that is down below. You can go look at the video as well, and the link will be on there as well, so you can go take a look at that and go and see, how I did it in that one too. But I will be giving away all the gear that I obtained from this to you guys, the viewers. All you have to do is hit like on the video, comment down below, and be subscribed to the channel, and that's all you got to do. So you can see that right now I'm on pants, and I'm just searching vitality, all resist, and dexterity. Now we're going with the bare essential type of stats here, because you don't, obviously, I know if you had 30, 40, 50 million gold, you'd want to have like the best stats possible. But what we're doing is we're searching for the more primary stats and getting them in the right places. I'll explain a little bit more than that in just a second, and then I'm going to show you some demonstrations a little bit later on. And I'm also going to show you the kind of the power behind the spec, and show you the spec and the build and everything you need to know about this. So let's get into that right now, and here we go. Alright, and what I did here is I went ahead and did some copying and pasting and showed you all the gear that we did purchase from that. I'm going to break down how much I spent on each piece in just a little bit, get more into the details, but for right now we're talking about stats. And if you don't know my channel, you don't know who I am, I was the first person in the world to have max magic find on my Demon Hunter. He still has max magic find. This was before they did a cap on it, and now that it is capped, I'm looking for new ways to build new gear. So that's what this is right here, but at the same time, I'm making this stuff for you guys. So because this gear, I mean, obviously people would want better gear than this. I do realize that, and I want to get that very clear. However, this is going to get you going to be able to do Act 1 and Act 2 with ease. So right here, we'll start off right here at the helmet. Now the main things of the helmets, you gotta have a socket. I mean, everybody knows with Paragon leveling, you want to have that bonus XP in there. And you're thinking only 21%? Why don't you get the best one? Well, the best one costs 20 something million gold, so that's not part of the budget in this. So we went with the one that costs like 50k, only 21%, but it gets you started. You gotta start somewhere, right? You also want to have crit chance on here. This is a crit build. We're not going with sharpshooter. No sharpshooter. We're going with the crit build here and just having sustainable damage that you can just keep moving through. You don't have to wait for your sharpshooter to come back up. You can just keep gliding through and leveling quickly. That's one problem that I noticed with sharpshooter, is that yes, it is amazing burst damage and I can one-shot anything in Act 1 and Act 2. However, when you get to Act 3, you want sustainable damage, because you're not going to one-shot everything in Act 3 unless you have hundreds and hundreds of millions of gold. So next, what we have on, obviously, on the helmet as well, you want to have dexterity on there. You can see it. That's the main thing though. It's going to be the crit chance, the dexterity, and the gem. Down below, now we have the chest piece here, and the main thing is max discipline. There's only so many areas you can get max discipline, and you want to have as much discipline as possible because you don't want to have to wait for things to regenerate. So that's going to help a lot. 10 right there. I would never go lower than 10 max discipline. Just makes sense to get the most you can. I mean, we bought this chest piece for really cheap. 119 dexterity there, and vitality. Now I would like to have all resist here for a little bit of survivability to make it less so you don't get one-shotted and stuff. However, the 10 max discipline does make it a little more pricey, so focus on dexterity and max discipline here the most, and then try and squeeze in some vitality and or resistance if you can. Now let's go down to gloves. Now it's 149 dexterity, crit chance 7.5%, and crit damage 31%. I would say for gloves, get at least these stats. 140 dex, 30 crit damage, and 7% crit. Get at least those, because you can get it really cheap, and gloves are one of those things that can roll really good stats, and they usually have a lot of properties. So you have a lot more options too. You can get like attack speed, you can get resistance. Got a little bit of intelligence on there to give me a little bit of resist. So it does add up, and it's nice. Looking on the top, we got the shoulders. The 115 dexterity. Main thing for shoulders, because you're kind of limited on what kind of things you can get for shoulders, unless you get like legendary shoulders or anything like that. But we're not talking about that in this video. So you want to stick with the basics: vitality, resistance, dexterity. Try and get as most as you can for the amount of gold that you have. Now we go down below to the amulet. Amulet's another thing where you can take advantage of crit chance and crit damage. So you need to do it. You need to take advantage of slots that are going to have those things available to you. Now there's no vitality, no all resist here. There is 115 intellect here. I got this for 50k, I believe, and I think it was a pretty good pickup for the amount that I paid. I mean, something like this when Diablo 3 first came out would have been godlike, you know, like on the first couple days. But you know, to get something like this, it really shows just that if you search correctly, you can find good items like this. Now let's go down to the bracers. Some people don't know it, but bracers actually can have crit chance on them. They can also have reduced damage taken by melee and ranged, so that's something too you could look at if you could afford it. On here, resistance, vitality, dexterity, those are going to be the main things, but the most important part is going to be the crit chance, because you want to take advantage of it when you can. We drop down to the first ring here, and this is going to be just try, when you're searching for this, just try and search for dexterity, crit damage, and crit chance, and see how much you can get for the most for how much gold you have. Pretty self-explanatory. Try and stay away from all resist there, because it's going to start getting pricey. Then we jump up to slide ties, the belt. Now you're kind of limited once again here on the belt, but 116 dex, vitality, and some resistance. You know, maybe add a little bit more resistance there. Maybe drop down a little vitality if you want to. You can go both ways, but that is something you can do as well. Then onto the pants. Now you're saying that's pretty low vitality and dexterity. Usually on base stands on pants and chest you want to have a lot. However, these ones I found were almost 80 resist all, and I was like, I gotta get these. I mean, it's decent dex and decent vitality, but that resist all, just put it over the top, and it does help a lot. I mean, you gotta take advantage of things when you can get them. You know, if I can get almost 80 resistance on pants, go for it, because it'll help out your overall character in the areas that are lacking the resist all. And let's jump up, before we do weapon, let's jump up to the ring, the other one. Follow the same guidelines there. Try to get as much dexterity as I could. It's tough. I mean, if I were to search 100 dexterity plus those other stats with the crit chance and the crit damage, then you're looking at a lot more gold than what I spent. I think I only spent like 70k or something like that for these. We'll see the totals at the end, and I'll show you all the totals. And you can match them all up together. Then we have boots. The most primary thing for boots, if you're not getting legendary boots, is, I mean, movement speed. Movement speed on any boots that you get is the primary thing. Always get 12%. Helps you out a lot. Keeps you moving. There are some bracers out there that give movement speed. There's some weapons out there that get movement speed. Those are legendary. So, you know, if you can start affording the gold for that, that's something you could look into later on. Then we have the weapon. The two most important things for the weapon is going to be the most damage you can get, having it be a crossbow so you can get that critical hit damage, and having critical hit damage on it. There are some weapons out there right now that you can get a socket and crit hit damage. That is a good idea, but make sure the base crit hit damage on the weapon itself is pretty high. You know, a lot of them that I see for the price is like 40 gold, 40 or 50%, and then you have a socket, and yeah, overall you probably would have a little bit more crit hit damage, but you're going to spend more too. The whole point of this was to budget yourself. Has a little bit of intellect on there to give you some resist. But overall, 1100 damage for a two-hander. I paid like really cheap for this. I think 100k. What can you ask for, right? The offhand for Demon Hunters got upgraded a lot with patch 1.0.3. A lot of the stats are boosted a lot more. This quiver was very cheap. I got the max discipline on there. That's going to be one of the main things you got to look for. The crit chance is another one of the main things you got to take advantage of. Dexterity, very easy to get over 100 dexterity and spend very little, so take advantage of that. And the attack speed, shoot for at least 14% if you can. 15% is ideal or higher, but that is all that, and let's move on to the next part. Alright, and these are all the stats and the spec and the build and everything that you're going to have for this portion here and how much we spent. You can see on the left side is all purchased at the same time. No tricks or anything. You can match up the names to the items that I showed you just a second ago. Total, we spent 935,999 gold. I think that's really good considering we spent less on this than the Barbarian gear. But Barbarian gear is a little more specific as for like the way you do it, because it's like a certain kind of spec. Whereas this one's just a crit spec that doesn't rely on sharpshooter. So let's get into that right now. You can see I'm using Hungering Arrow with Spray of Teeth. What Spray of Teeth does, I'm going to show demonstrations in just a second after I'm done talking through this. You'll see how the spec works and everything, a little thing that I set up for you. Spray of Teeth, when you critical, when you shoot and you critical with the Hungering Arrow, it sprays off and it does a lot of damage to AoE damage around. So it's nice to have because your crit chance, if you look on the far right, it's 37.5%. Pretty decent. I'd say try and get at least 30% so you can do this build. Then we have multi-shot with Fire at Will. Multi-shot's really great for mowing down mobs, and especially with Paragon leveling, getting through really quickly. But then with Fire at Will, it was reduced from now it only costs 15 hatred for the multi-shot, so definitely a really big thing there, conserving that hatred. Preparation and smoke screen, always using those. Backup plan, that's the 30% ruin, so the 30% chance to get all of your discipline back, so definitely huge. Smoke screen, the lingering fog, the 1.5 second one, that's what lingering fog is. Cow traps, jagged spikes, so the ones that you put on the ground, you do damage to the mobs. It's really nice, especially with having 50 discipline in this build and having ways to get your discipline back up because you have critical damage. Then we have Cluster Arrow, very good single target burst. You can use it on like rare packs that have 3 mobs. As long as they're close together, you can burst them all down. You'll see in the demonstration in just a second how much damage you can do. Considering you crit so much, those damages are going to be huge, and the critical hit damage is pretty decent, almost 300% there. Not bad at all. Looking down now at the passives, Night Stalker is awesome. Whenever you critical, you have a chance of restoring discipline. So, I mean, you're going to be critting all the time, especially if you're AoEing. That's the most important thing with Paragon level, is AoE as much as possible so that you can keep going quickly and keep leveling faster. Archery is going to be good there. It's going to give you the 50% for critical damage, which is going to be definitely important. So you need to have that. And then steady aim, if you're far away from the mobs, like 10 yards or something like that, you get an extra 20% damage. So those are the passives that I use. You see the stats on the left there: strength, dexterity, intellect. Dexterity, I mean, it's pretty low, but what can you expect for the amount of gold that we spent? Damage is 50k. That's no sharpshooter, guys. If you use sharpshooter, I tested it out, you're going to be looking at about 100k damage, and that's going to be more bursty. However, it's not going to be so good for Paragon leveling because you're going to have to wait for that sharpshooter to come back up, and you already have pretty good crit chance, so you don't need sharpshooter with this build. And then we're looking over on the right side here, because we did get some resist all. The resistances are decent. It's enough to not get one-shotted by mobs, especially in Act 1 and 2. This spec here can do Act 3, but it's going to be very tough. I would wait a little while. Make sure you're just really destroying Act 1 and 2 before you go into Act 3. Maybe upgrade these stats a little bit, and that's what you're going to do to build this gear up, is you're going to like look at the stats that you have and just improve on that, and then eventually over time, that's exactly what I did when I started my Demon Hunter. Is I started with bare minimal stats, and then I built up on that and just kept going, and eventually got to the gear that my Demon Hunter has, and he can do anything in the game practically with my eyes closed. So that is all of that, guys. I want to say thank you for watching this video, and enjoy the demonstrations with a little bit of music in the background in just a second that I've set up for you. Guys, right now, Diablo 3, there's not a whole lot going on, and I love making Diablo 3 videos. It's a great game. I urge you to get into it if you're not into it. However, I have a little thing that I want to do because we are doing a contest, right? So you can win this gear if you hit like and a comment. In your comment, what I want you to do is give me some suggestions. What kind of Diablo 3 videos do you want to see? Now, the one comment that gets the most thumbs up is what I'm going to do in the next episode of Diablo 3, and that'll be next week or maybe later on this week. And again, thanks for watching, guys.